obviously what everybody wants, what all public health authorities, all the population wants is an effective vaccine. If you have an effective vaccine, it will probably go a long way to stopping the outbreak, stopping the epidemic. The problem with vaccine development is that there are multiple steps that have to go through. The Israelis have got a prototype vaccine which they developed from a vaccine they use for bronchitis of chickens, which is an important agricultural problem. So that is a major step forward, because if you have a prototype vaccine, you can go to the next step. It's not the only prototype vaccine. There are a number of other prototype vaccines which have been developed. That is only the very preliminary stage. In fact, it's one of the easiest stage in developing a vaccine. Fortunately, this is the one silver lining, and that is that coronavirus appears to be genetically stable and antigenically stable. Scientifically, what that means is that it facilitates the development of a vaccine. So in other words, unlike influenza, which keeps on changing, this appears to be quite stable, And because of that, that initial stage is relatively easy. The problem is that that's not the end of it. That's only the very beginning. Once a prototype vaccine has been developed, there are a number of tests which have to be done. First of all, there are tests which are done on tissue culture. We need to establish that, in fact, it is effective, that it does stimulate the immune system, that it is genetically stable, there's no instability. In other words, once you've got the vaccine, you don't want it to actually cause disease. So you've got to make sure that it is, in fact, genetically stable. And there are a number of other tissue culture in the laboratory tests which have been done. Once one has got that step, you then take it to the animal trials. You need to go through various animal trials, again, to prove, first of all, that it is effective, that it does stimulate the immune system, that it remains genetically stable in the animal, in a body, and thirdly, that it is safe, that it doesn't cause any problem itself. The last thing you want to do is give somebody coronavirus infection from a vaccine. So you've got to make sure it's absolutely safe. Once it has reached that stage, then one has to go through clinical trials. And the clinical trials go through various phases. We call them phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. Now that takes an awful long time, because you need to evaluate it in a situation where people may get infected. You need to get adequate controls. So I'm really condensing quite a long story down into a minute or two. The bottom line is that that takes at least a year, but probably more like 18 months to go through all those steps until you can get a safe, effective vaccine which can be used in the population as a whole. So there's a lot of unfortunate media hype which is trying to put out that a vaccine is imminently available. It's not. It's going to take quite a long time to develop a safe, effective vaccine, because you have to go through all these steps before you can immunize the population.